Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Bonafide Investing, where we talk all things high yield investing, options, futures, investment strategies, and investment goals in general. If you're new to the channel, welcome. To give you a little bit of background about what we're doing here, I took about 20% of my net worth roughly, and I built what I call an all-weather high yield portfolio using both my capital as well as some margin to, number one, pay my bills, and number two, maintain and pay down that margin over time. Please hit like and subscribe if you like what we're doing here. And please know that anything we talk about today is not investment advice, not now, not ever. Although I was a financial advice in a past life, I'm not responsible for your wins. I'm not responsible for your losses. What a crazy week, huh? I mean, we had some volatility. And, the CNN Fear and Greed Index swung from greed to fear back to neutral all within 1 week, which makes me extremely nervous in these markets overall. So, again, it's been just kind of a wild ride. Markets were down, like I said, right, at least like I thought they would be. But Friday, what a bounce. And I personally think that Friday was an outlier. I think we do continue down, especially in equities, after seeing precious metals and Bitcoin and cryptos get absolutely annihilated this past week. So portfolio update, want to talk about that, just some moves I've made, some changes I've made. And I sold out of YBTC. I also sold out of WPay. I am a firm believer these markets are headed down. So what I did was I sold out WPay because of the 1.2 leverage that it has right now. If we do continue down, it's just going to go down more. So sold that out. I put some of that cash into YMAX, into QLDY, and it added a little bit to my long short fund that I built between Ulti and Salty. Added a little bit back there. I also bought 3,000 more shares of YQQQ. So in essence, I doubled my short position. I basically doubled it this week. I sold WPay and YBTC early in the week, I think Monday, Tuesday, and bought YQQQ, more of it Monday, Tuesday, as well as Ulti Salty. So I made a lot of my transactions earlier last week. Cash flow life was down about 0.5% for the week. Again, that's going off of Robinhood's performance numbers, which I don't trust, because the high distributions for a high yield portfolio, I don't believe are reflected accurately here on Robinhood. So that did bring my margin up. I'm using about 27% of my margin. I like to stay between 10 and 30%. I don't think I took on any more risk by doing so, because again, I put most of it into the inverse fund of YQQQ. I did change my recurring investment amounts, still $200 a day. Across, I believe, 14 of my holdings now. You can see here. So, brought that kind of back where I wanted to allocate moving forward. And what I also did Tuesday, Thursday, markets were down more than 1%. The S&P and the NASDAQ were down more than 1% Tuesday, Thursday. So I doubled my dollar cost average those days. I put $40 into QDTE, $40 into QLDY, $40 into QQQI, $40 into XDTE, and $40 into SPY. So I put $200 across those 5 funds, $40 each, both those days, since they were big down days. Right now, for cash flow life, the annualized income is $152,359.66 based on this past week's up-to-date distributions and holdings. That is on a portfolio worth about $623,500, with $451,713.20 being my own principal. And I'm using $171,787.14 of margin. My margin buffer was at about 63% at one point before I bought more of the YQQQ Tuesday. So again, deploying over $36,000 into that ETF only brought my margin buffer down a couple percent, about 2.5%. No big deal. I'm still over that 50% threshold that I like. And if I, look at how I'm allocated, so across my short ETFs, okay, so if we just look at YQQQ and SALT, that's about 22.5% of the entire portfolio right now. And my long ETFs and closed-end funds, about 28.4%. But that's not including the high yield ETFs, the ultra high yielders. I have about $98,361. And the ultra high yielders are YMAX, KYLD, and ULTI. Okay, that's what I constitute there. For gold and real estate, it's sitting at about 21% of the portfolio, by $130,902. The fixed income is at 8.1%. That is just the TLTW position. That's a little over $50,000. And then the value of my options right now, between the three long calls on VXX, as well as the long puts on SPY and QQQ, those values right now are sitting at $26,914. So right now I've got an annualized income of about 24.5%. Happy with those numbers. Had my mortgage and quite a few bills come out this past week also. So happy where everything sits, right? No alarm bells, being down 0.5% after a week like we just had, where gold and the markets and crypto got absolutely decimated. It's pretty good, right? To only fall 0.5%. And like I've been saying, for every roughly $10,000 cash flow life falls, my margin buffer has only been falling about 1% for every $10,000. I like that ratio. Now, one thing to keep in mind, Robinhood, E-Trade, Schwab, any of these brokerages can change margin maintenance requirements at any time. So be watching your margin maintenance and those numbers, those requirements very closely, especially if you go into a bear market. Okay. So if markets start turning down, I'd really be watching my margin maintenance, that, a broker doesn't take a 25% to a 50% or 100%, right? And they can do it. They have every right to do it. So be very mindful of that. My game plan is, if something goes higher, I'll probably sell it and replace it with something closer to that 25% number that I like. So again, borrowing at 4.5%, getting about 24.5% income right now. So I like that 20% spread. Again, it is paying my bills and helping maintain my margin as I go. So watching some crazy videos over this past week, just here on YouTube, and man, just people, when there's a 2% down day in the NASDAQ, or silver's down 10 or 15%, people are getting margin called or close to. And I'm sorry, guys, that's gambling, right? I'd much rather go to Las Vegas and play games and have fun if I want to gamble than trying to gamble with your portfolio. I see a lot of people who just get sucked into the hype, sucked into the narrative, what's popular. And I would just advise, be very careful. I've been guilty of it. I'm sure you listening have been guilty of it if you've been investing a while. So be careful. I mean, I would not be using margin if you can get margin called after a down week of like 3 or 4% with, I know crypto, gold, and silver got hammered even more, but I mean, that's just pure risk. And I don't mean to sit here on a high horse and preach or say that, I do it better. And that's not what I'm alluding to here, but I wouldn't do it. There comes a point where your portfolio becomes gambling. If you're getting caught in the hype, caught in the speculation, make sure you diversify, right? Especially in these times, I think diversification is going to be very, very important. I saw people who've put so much of their portfolios in a strategy and Bitcoin and even silver and all this stuff. And man, I mean, if you want to dabble. You're not going to get wiped out, I think, when you dabble responsibly. But again, be very careful, especially in these markets. This past week was a great reminder to stay hedged. And remember, it's need over greed, right? This channel is not for anybody looking for a get-rich-quick scheme. Not at all, in any way, shape, or form. This is just, again, if you want high income to do anything from, replace your 9-to-5 job all the way down to just some side money to go have some fun with. Again, this is what a fifth of my, investable net worth is in, because that's the whole goal of this portfolio. I would never advocate investing all of your net worth this way. I wouldn't advise investing your net worth any single way. So be very careful. And so this week coming, I think we turned down again. However, if we go up, we go up, right? And it's fine. I'm glad that I upped my hedges. My downside was some more inverse exposure through YQQQ, a little bit more salty. Happy where, I think my VIX calls this week were up into that roughly $5.50 to $6 range, which, volatility got up. I think the VIX got up to about 22, right in the 22 to 23 range at one point. My puts are roughly flat right now. Great. I hope those keep going down. That means, markets are going up. But one thing I wanted to remind on also, if you look at the performance of gold and silver this past week, right, it was night and day. Gold fell, about 4 to 5 times less than silver. Now on the up days, like yesterday, Friday, obviously silver had a really good little bounce there. But again, this is why I do like gold over silver. I like both. I think they both serve their purpose. I think gold is God's ultimate money, but I think silver is mentioned in the Bible too, right? So it's just as important. But I think they're important for different reasons, especially today. Again, gold is the only true money out there. And I think silver is, money as well as has a huge industrial demand, especially with where AI is going, solar is going. So again, they both serve their purpose. I think they're both good ways to hedge against a slow motion dollar collapse, which is what I think we're going to be living through the next 10 or 20 years. But again, going all in on silver and the silver hype, I think is and was dangerous. I still think, in my humble opinion, silver and gold are still a little bit overvalued where they're at now. Silver at $50, gold at $3,500. Yeah, I'll probably add a little bit more at those levels. But right now, I've been buying them for over 22 years. So I don't care what the price of gold and silver does. Like I could care less. And I don't mean to come across smug when I say that, but it doesn't matter, right? My goal is to not get rich off those. My goal is to ensure my wealth through real hard assets. Okay. So just some thoughts there. Love to hear your thoughts and comments around, what you've been doing, how your portfolio did this past week. But yeah, 0.5% according to Robinhood, I think the 1 week, roughly, 0.57%. Again, I don't know because there was so much income. There was money coming in, money going out for bills. Again, as long as that income stays higher than what I'm paying in bills and I can control for the downside, that's the main focus here. So, happy overall with Cash for Life. I think volatility continues up. I think it continues up for a while. I don't know if we're at that 80-90% rug pull, just market collapse that I think that is coming. I still stick by that thesis. I hope it doesn't. I hope I'm wrong. But I think we could see about a 20% correction, which I think would be extremely healthy for these markets. I love what happened in gold and silver and crypto. I think it's a great flush of the excess, of the leverage, of the toxicity out of those asset classes. And the reason I say that is now, as that, I guess, excess leaves those assets, they can continue higher in a more healthy way, right? Not going up 30, 40% in a week and people thinking that's normal, because it's not. Anything that goes parabolic scares the heck out of me, right? I've contemplated buying back into Ybit. We saw about a $10,000 bounce from 60 to 70,000 roughly, really quick in about 24 hours. I don't want to chase that bounce because I think Bitcoin and silver are probably still headed lower. Gold, I think gold might stabilize here a little bit. Wouldn't be surprised to see it fall below $4,000. But, I think maybe like a 4,500 gold and a, $70 to $75 silver price. Let those consolidate there. Crypto maybe around 60 to 70,000. I'm sorry, not crypto, Bitcoin around 60 to 70,000, I think would be healthy for those assets. And I think equities really need a good, 20 to 30% sell off here to stay healthy and stay intact. And if we do, what I think it will probably do is push off the, 70 to 90% collapse that I think is coming in the next couple of few years. So again, just some of my thoughts there. Love to hear what you're doing to hedge. I will be making a video if time permits this weekend. Just we have a lot going on right now. I do want to make a video on TLTW. I had a request there. Any other requests, anything that we can talk about or discuss? Love to hear from you guys. But anyways, One big thing I took from this week, I did see an article in the news. It had a symbol, it had the Bitcoin symbol, and the caption said shitcoin. When I see articles like that, it really makes me want to buy, right? That means there is a lot of fear. There is a lot of proverbial blood in the streets, and I like to start nibbling around there. But I think if Bitcoin falls down into those low 60s, low 60,000s again, I might buy a call or two on IBIT, which is the ETF that tracks Bitcoin. Might be a move I make this week. I also will jump back into energy, I think, if we get maybe another 5 to 10% pullback here. Again, with everything going on, I think a lot of the Iran tension has been priced into the market already. If missiles start flying, God forbid, I think we'll probably see a bump in oil and volatility quickly. But I don't know if it's going to last, and I don't think Iran will be the black swan. I think we'll probably see a black swan event around the bond market, our bond market, Japan's bond market, and who else knows? But that's where I think we're going to see the real damage be done. I think in those markets, and that just spillover. I think that'll hit the global markets that way. So we'll see. Anyways, wanted to give that update on Cash Flow Life. Please like and subscribe. Support the channel. Helps make more videos. Love to hear thoughts and comments. And hope you got something from today. Trust God, rely on the math, rely on the charts, and ignore the noise. Have a great day.